G'day and welcome aboard. My name is Ian and I'll be your tour guide. Today, in episode 1, we'll be exploring Kempsey, New South Wales. Now you're probably wondering, what am I going to talk about with Kempsey? Well, you'd be surprised. It has the longest, the fastest and one of the biggest things in Australia.
Okay, so let's jump right in. So we take the northern exit off the M1 motorway at Fredericton onto the Macleay Valley Way. Now the Macleay Valley Way is the old Pacific Highway that was renamed following the bypass that was built in 2013. So at that time, the bypass boasted to have Australia's longest bridge. So it's 3.2 kilometres or 3,200 metres and spans the mighty Macleay Valley and took about 2,000 trucks a day out of the main street of Kempsey and cost $185 million to build. So the whole bypass cost 600 and something odd million, of which 185 is allocated to the bridge works. Kempsey is located approximately halfway between Sydney and Brisbane on New South Wales mid-north coast. So it's about 430 from Sydney and 480 kilometres from Brisbane, so thereabouts halfway. Out of the 2021 census, there was 11,000 people. So coming up on our right-hand side is our first point of interest, and it's Freddo Pies. Freddo Pies has been operating since 1993 and is famous for the crocodile pie. Unsure why they picked crocodiles, because there's not many around here, but anyway, they're delicious. So unfortunately, due to the bypass, they've had to downsize from the main building into just Cafe 73 and then also open an outlet down on the South Kempsey interchange. So my brother-in-law, who is a pie connoisseur, would always love to call into Freddo Pies and choose a pepper pie, I think was his favourite. But yeah, in that little building next to the cafe, it was chockers with pies from the full length of it, all different sorts and makes and models. Anyway, it was always a good call in on a road trip heading north or south. So coming out of Freddo, we come down the hill onto the Macleay floodplain. Now the mighty Macleay starts way to buggery up in the New England Ranges near Armidale, travels 298 kilometres down through the hills, across the floodplain and spews out into the Tasman Sea. The coverage area or the catchment area is some 11,450 kilometres squared. Now, when the mighty Macleay floods, it really floods and goes to become the second fastest flowing river in the world. And that makes it the fastest flowing river in Australia. So it goes from a mild 56 metres cubed per second to a whopping 14,016 cubic metres per second. That was in the 1949 floods, it was estimated to do that. And the area between Kempsey and Freddo that we're travelling along now goes underwater and sometimes for weeks. Now in 1949 and again in 1950, the Macleay flood reached its height, and this was the biggest one recorded, of 8.52 metres and unfortunately, tragically took 6 people's lives. So as you come into Kempsey, you'll come over the flood levee, which is there to protect the town, into the 50 zone, and then you come across the Shell Servo on the left-hand side. So the 2001 flood was 7.44 metres and left a mark, or a high tide mark, just underneath the cornice inside the Shell Servo. And the recent 2025, which only just happened whilst I've been recording this, was 7.37 metres, and it's left a high tide mark just underneath the double doors in the entry to the Shell Servo. So you get a bit of a grasp at how much water sits in and around here, and you could only imagine what it would be in 1949-50 when it was 8.52 metres.
One of the grand buildings of Kempsey is the post office. So built in 1903-04 with the additions, it stands on the corner of Smith Street and Belgrave Street, just near the traffic bridge and where the ferry used to come across. And directly across the road is Savage's Lane, where they've done some street art. Colourful Street Art Murals Express, it's called. And the theme is, from the mountains to the sea, of natural beauty and shared history. Now, what it is, it's worth a look. It's pretty cool. There's 14 murals, and they were created by a number of different artists, and they won gold. Gold in the Best Street Art Laneway in 2024.
Now, a long-standing family-owned butchery of the Macleay Valley is the Ball Family Butchery, and they were operating in 1949. Now, following a flood, there's a ton of mud. And after the 1950 flood, the community had all come together at the church to try and help support one another and all that sort of thing. So now the pastor, the parish priest, Monsignor T.J. Morris, had got himself bogged in Gladstone. Now he got stuck solid in the mud, and he was about an hour late to the sermon. So when he arrived, he thanked everyone for coming, and he's like, oh, thank you, and patiently waiting for me, and he apologised, and he said, thank the Lord, the only way that I was only able to get out of here was that I got pulled out of the mud by the balls. Ha! Everyone laughed, and the next day's newspaper reading, or the headings read, local pastor pulled out of the mud by the balls. So you come over the railway line into West Kempsey. This area is flood free and houses the council buildings, library, fire station, etc. Now I'd like to give a shout out to the West Kempsey IGA. Now I've got no affiliation with them, but they make the best barbecue chicken in the Macleay Valley. Not sure what they do to it, but they are so good. Now, like many towns on the mid-north coast, they started with the timber industry, and Kempsey was the cedar trees mostly. After they'd cleared all those and harvested them, it made way for dairy, beef, and farming industries, which are still operating today. Now, as cedar was plentiful, most of the homes in the mighty Macleay Valley are built out of this beautiful local timber. Also, heading up this way, you've got upriver, heading out towards up the Armidale Road. There's a place called Nulla Nulla, and it boasts to have the largest cedar tree in Australia, called the Sewer Cedar. And although it was cut down in 1883, it yielded 240 cubic metres of cedar, which made it the largest cedar tree in Australia. Another big thing that came out of Nulla Nulla was the mighty Slim Dusty. Now his house is still up there and visible from the road, but there's no public access. And it's a nice drive, and you could even grab a beer and a lunch on the way up or back at either Willawarren Hotel or the Bellbrook Hotel. Yeah, nice drive up that way. Another popular pastime on the Macleay is bash fishing. From Sherwood up to George's Junction is the popular spots. Now, there's a special technique known as the Kempsey cast for bass fishing. So normally, instead, you'd cast to the edges of the river near fallen trees and overhanging logs and things like that, because that's where they like to sit and ambush. But on hot days, the bass retreat to the deeper water amongst the weeds, where the oxygen in the water is better. So the Kempsey cast was invented, and what that involves is casting out into the middle of the river with a lure down amongst the weed beds, and people have a lot of success with that.
Coming back through Kempsey, take the traffic bridge into East Kempsey, cross over the hill, and you'll come down into South Kempsey. Heading a little bit past the servos and all that, you've got the Dungutty Art Gallery. Now, this is a great little gallery to stick your head in and have a look at, and you can purchase some Aboriginal art from some local artists.
So leaving the art gallery, you come down to South Street, which is where Bunnings is. You turn right there. A kilometre up the road is the home of an Aussie icon, a Cobra. Now, it's not originally from Kempsey. It started in Tasmania in 1876 by a Benjamin Dunkerley. Now, Benjamin thought he was very smart, because as a hat business in Tasmania, how could it possibly fail? As he'd heard that all the people in Tasmania have two heads. Well, once it worked out that it was just a joke made up by mainland Australians to bully the Tasmanians, he moved his operation to Sydney in 1900s. And then in 1904, he joined forces with Stephen Kerr, and then in 1974, the Kerr family moved the business operations to Kempsey, where it still operates today. Some of the interesting and fun facts about Akubra are Stephen Kerr the fifth is sixth generation or master hatter to still actively work in the business. In 2012, the Guinness Book of Records of 1,912 people, all wearing Akubras, was set in Kempsey. So Akubra has produced more than 21 million hats, with more than 2 million of those being slouch hats for the military. And in 2023, Andrew and Nicola Forrest purchased Akubra to keep the Australian icon in Australian hands. They also own RM Wool.
So we head back down to Macleay Valley Way and turn right and head south. You'll come across a building on your right-hand side called the Slim Dusty Centre. Now this houses lots of memorabilia of the career of Slim Dusty, who was originally born David Gordon Kirkpatrick. Now he changed his name at 11 years of age to his stage name of Slim Dusty and was also known as the King of Country. Now he fell in love with a Joy McKeon in 1951, and together they wrote and performed country music. They released more than 100 albums, selling more than 7 million records, earning 70 gold and platinum album certificates, 38 Golden Guitar Awards, and was inducted into the ARIA Hall of Fame. After leaving Slim Dusty Centre, you could head back out onto the M1 heading north and drive across Australia's longest bridge. There we have it. Episode 1 done and dusted. Who'd have thought, Kempsey? It has the longest bridge, the fastest flowing river, and the biggest thing in country music, Slim Dusty. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you want to see some pictures to go with all of this, you could catch my vlog on YouTube. And please like and subscribe so that we can keep on doing it. As I said, thanks for listening, and please join us on our next episode where we explore Crescent Head.